The first time I saw her, she was trembling in the dim light of the landing bay, chains clinking softly against the polished floor. The war had ended weeks ago, and I'd been assigned to escort the prisoners of the defeated Zerathi Empire back to the Galactic Council for processing. Most of the captives were soldiers or administrators, but one figure stood apart. Tall, graceful, with silver-blue skin that seemed to shimmer even in the dim lighting, she was unmistakably Zerathi royalty. Her hair, a cascade of luminescent strands, fell across her shoulders, framing a face both beautiful and resolute. But the chains, the heavy, cold restraints, marred her elegance. She was my warbride. The Zerathi had lost the war, and the Galactic Council's decree was clear. The highest-ranking surviving princesses would be assigned to select human officers as wards, a controversial measure intended to ensure peace between empires. I had never imagined that I'd be assigned one, but here she was. The arrival. The transport bay was quiet except for the hiss of pressurized doors and the soft hum of the gravlift. "Step forward," the officer said. I glanced at the chains securing her wrists and ankles. They were ceremonial in appearance, but strong enough to ensure she could not escape. She stepped forward, her posture impeccable, head held high despite the chains. Her golden eyes met mine, and for a moment, neither of us spoke. "You may remove her outer restraints," the officer instructed, "but do not release her completely until she is registered at the council. She is under full custody until then." I approached cautiously, expecting resistance. But instead of fear or anger, she tilted her head slightly, a faint smile playing at the edges of her lips. She began in perfect galactic common. "Do you intend to treat me as a prisoner?" I shook my head. "Only until we reach the council. After that, you'll be free to—" She cut me off. Her voice, soft yet commanding, made me freeze.
"No, do not release me."
"Not yet." I blinked. "I beg your pardon?" I said, "Do not remove these restraints fully. I am not ready for freedom." I stared. The words didn't make sense. Most prisoners would be begging for release. Not her. Not this one. On the journey, we boarded a small escort cruiser, the kind designed to carry high-value captives safely through potentially hostile space. She sat opposite me, chains still lightly restraining her, hands folded calmly. "Why are you afraid of freedom?" I asked cautiously, trying not to sound accusatory. She looked at me, eyes steady. "Freedom is a strange concept to someone who has spent her life in command. My world has rules. My people have expectations. The chains, they are not merely restraints. They remind me of who I am and who I must become." I frowned. "You'd rather stay chained than be free?"
"Yes."
"And you must understand, the real danger is not from outside. It is within. Without these chains, I am uncontrolled." I swallowed. This wasn't what I had expected from a warbride assignment. Most were angry, bitter, or fearful. She was something else entirely. Over the next few hours, she explained bits of her world. The Zerathi Empire's rigid hierarchy, the complex rituals of loyalty and honor, and the burdens carried by those of royal blood. "Freedom," she said quietly, "is not a gift. It is a test. And I am not ready." The first night, our cruiser made its first stop at a neutral outpost for refueling. We were alone in the observation deck, the stars stretching endlessly outside the glass. She approached me, chains softly jingling with each step. "I could escape," she whispered. "I am capable of it. But I will not." "Why?" I asked. "Because if I flee, I betray my people, my family, and the rules that shaped me. But here by your side, even in chains, I honor all of that. Understand?" I nodded slowly. The enormity of her words sank in. This wasn't a simple war bride, nor a captive awaiting freedom. She carried centuries of duty in her every gesture. That night, she slept chained, eyes open for a long time, as if watching over invisible enemies. I realized the weight of responsibility I had been entrusted with, not just by the council, but by her own choice. Learning trust. Days passed. I escorted her from station to station, always careful to respect her wishes. She never asked for mercy, never begged, but occasionally she would glance at me, a flicker of something gratitude, or perhaps understanding. I learned to anticipate her needs, the way she preferred to eat, how she liked certain star charts aligned, even the order in which she wanted her quarters cleaned. She, in turn, began to trust me in small ways. She allowed me to adjust her restraints slightly, to make them more comfortable. She spoke to me about her fears, not of war, not of enemies, but of failing herself and her people. "You are not like the others," she admitted one evening as we watched a nebula swirl past the cruiser's viewport. "Others?" I asked. "Those who see me only as a prisoner, a trophy, a war bride. You listen. And that is rare." Her chains clinked softly as she leaned slightly closer. I did not expect to find companionship in a human. The crisis. Midway through the journey, our cruiser was ambushed by a rogue faction of pirates seeking to capture high-value Zerathi prisoners. The ship shook violently as alarms blared. The princess, my war bride, looked at me calmly. "Do not panic," she said, "but I must act." She managed to free one hand and manipulated the ship's controls with astonishing skill. It became clear she had been trained in navigation and combat systems far superior to any human pilot I had ever known. "Why didn't you tell me you could do this?" I yelled over the alarms. "Because it is not my place," she replied. "I am bound. And yet, some things must be done to survive." With her help, we evaded the pirates, though the ship suffered minor damage. I realized then that her chains were symbolic, yes, but also a source of focus for her, restraints that allowed her to channel her training and discipline under pressure. Arrival at the Galactic Council. When we finally arrived at the Council's headquarters, she remained chained, but calm, poised, and resolute. The counselors were impressed by her composure. Most captives were terrified, but she carried herself like a ruler, even in captivity. After official processing, I expected her to finally request freedom. Instead, "Do not remove the chains yet," she told me. "I am not ready to face the council without them." "Not fully." I nodded, realizing that her request was not for my convenience, nor a plea for mercy. It was an assertion of her own power, a way to maintain control over her destiny even in chains. A moment of understanding. That evening, aboard a council transport, she approached me quietly. "You have treated me with respect," she said softly. "Not all humans do. For that, I trust you." "Then why the chains?" I asked. "They remind me of who I am," she said. "And they remind me of what I must never forget. They are not prison. They are discipline. Without them, I am incomplete." I finally understood. Freedom was not always about breaking restraints. Sometimes it was about carrying them willingly as a reminder of responsibility, duty, and purpose. The journey ahead. As we continued our escort duties, I realized that the war bride I had been assigned was not a victim, nor a simple prisoner. She was a leader, a strategist, and a disciplined soul who chose her own path, even if it meant remaining in chains. And I, a simple human officer, had the privilege of accompanying her. Not as a jailer, but as a companion, a witness, and, if she allowed, a friend. Chains can bind, yes, but in her case, they also freed her in ways I could scarcely comprehend. And in the quiet moments, When the stars stretched endlessly outside our cruiser, she would sometimes look at me and whisper, with those golden eyes glimmering, "Do not forget me. I trust you." I nodded, and for the first time in my life, I understood that freedom can be chosen, even in chains.